Hello everybody, Bruce here with a video overview for lab number 11. Now I'm in Canvas weeks 9 and 10, and you'll notice here under the file section there's something that says CRUD complete winter 2017.zip. What I've done is I've realized that I didn't probably do the job that I wanted to do going over the CRUD stuff. It became a little complex, as you started to see in the last lab, where we had to have a separate form for creating records, and that's not the way I did it in the past, and I don't know why I changed my mind this year, but I'm going to give to you a completed CRUD solution that I want you to learn and study. And I'm going to go over it quickly now, and then part of what I want you to do for Lab 11 is change out the database table to be your own. So I don't want you to use students. I'm going to want you to maybe it's stock prices or automobiles or real estate, whatever it may be. So let me show you my CRUD, okay? My CRUD right here. Now it looks kind of the same because it is. It is. I removed the sorting for now because I wanted to make it easier for everyone to understand what's going on and how this works. And when I get to the code, I think you'll appreciate this design that uses functions, and there's a lot less quote-unquote spaghetti code. So let me show you how it works. So I have a home link here that takes you to the page, and then I have the delete, which you know all and well because we've done that before. I added some JavaScript in here to make sure that you want to make sure that the user doesn't want to do it accidentally. So if I hit cancel, it cancels. If I hit delete again and OK, the record goes away. Now, in the last week's modules, we did the add student, and add student was kind of on a whole different PHP page. Now, notice right here we have the CRUD complete.php, and when I click add student, again it's just CRUD complete, and I have a parameter $create. Okay. Now I can enter in a student ID. I'll do 9901. I'll do first name Joey Wow, and his email is jwow@gmail.com, and his phone is just a whole bunch of numbers. And I'll hit Save New Record, and there is Joey Wow. Okay, all on the same page. Okay, this is a single PHP script, this CRUD complete thing right here. Okay, so when I want to add a we just did the add a student. When I want to edit a student, watch what happens. Again, I'm on CRUD complete. It says edit, which is the action now, and then the ID. So what I did is I combined them. I made the parameter what I want to do, and then I passed along the ID. So same thing here. When I click on delete, see, it says here, watch, it says delete, and then the ID of the record. Now when I hit edit, and I go here, and notice how I don't allow them to edit the ID. I don't want to be able to change the ID in the database. But if I make this Ebony1 Bean, and I don't allow right now either the changing of the email or the phone, okay, and I hit update and save, you can see it's Ebony1. Now, I didn't include the email and phone just because. Maybe that's something you should try and do on your own, okay? So again, if I click on edit, I can go in, I can say Beano, Ebony1 Beano, and click OK, and there it is. It's changed. Okay, and see what happened up here? It says update and then the record number. Okay, you see that? So I kind of simplified it a lot. So I want you to go through this and see what I did. In fact, let's go through the code. Okay, let's go through the code. Now just know, in CTEC 227, I'm going to expect that you know how to do this really well. And we're getting towards the end of the quarter, and I felt that I needed to share this solution with you so we can move on to other things. So I require the includes file. You all know that. You all know that drill already. And now I created a whole bunch of functions. Now what I could have done too is I could have put these functions in an include file and just required that include file to cut down on the core code going on here. Maybe I'll do that and I'll include it as a second version of the CRUD complete. So this is the create record function, and this is this thing right here. When I clicked on add record, that's this thing. Okay, create record. If I go back to my editor, you can see here echo create record. Now, there's something really interesting going on here. Here we have a function on line 30, and on 31 I have some PHP, and then right on line 32, look at that, I stop my PHP tag, and then I have just HTML here because it's just an HTML. Oops, crap. Oops, I just did something I shouldn't here. What did I do? Edit, undo. Okay, there we go. So let me go back here. Sorry about that. So notice that on line 32, I end my PHP tag, and then on lines 34, I have my form. And then on line 54, I resume the PHP script, and then I put my closing brace. So here, again, this is really important. I created a function that has a form in it, an HTML form. And I closed the PHP tag here, did my HTML, opened my PHP, and then put my closing brace right there. Just stare at that for a minute, because that's really powerful. Okay? And it says here, end of create record function. The next thing is render data, and it takes $result as a parameter. Now, $result happens to be all of the data that we got back from the database that we want to iterate through and display. And again, here I have echo table, and here's where I start to build the table headings. I loop through all the data in the result set, and I blow it out, via table rows and table data. And then I close the data and I close my function. But you see, anytime now I want to render that table, I can just call that function with a result set. A much better and neater approach. Okay? So the next thing here is function edit data. This is where I pass in the database connection and the ID of the record that I want to edit. Now let's take a look at it. It says editing record, and that's the ID. I have select star from students, so I need to first get the data, right, for that student before I allow the person to edit it, right? And then I query the database, I fetch a row, and I get the data from the table, and then notice the technique here on line 88. I stop my PHP, and now here is where I have all of my my HTML form with some embedded PHP in it. And then later on, down here on line 106, I start my PHP and I close out the function. Okay? That is super, super neat and super cool. Okay? I'll make it a little smaller here so you can see it. The next thing I'm going to do is handle sort. I guess this is left over from something else, because we're not really doing, actually, are we? Let's see. Did I do any sorting? Cancel. Let's click on, I did, first name. Ooh, error. Ooh, let me fix this. So on line 124, I have an error. See, I didn't test this stuff. I should have. So line 124, DB query, it should be that. Yeah. So let me just fix all these. Okay, yeah. All right. See, I make mistakes too. Let me go home. Now notice I just allow these columns now to be clicked on instead of having a separate form to deal with, how do you want it, ascending, descending, sort by last name. I just click on student ID, and now I get my student IDs all sorted. Same thing with email. You see that? Same thing with first name. Yeah, look at that. And phone. So a much more elegant approach. I hope you appreciate it as much as I do. So let me go back to the code. So what this stuff is doing here, it's handling the sorting, and it's just generating SQL, querying the database, and then calling the render data function with the result set that it got back. So it just passes the result set to the render data function, and then it just blows out all the HTML for the table to the browser. And that's the same thing with any of these things here. So just so you know, right? So it has sort, right? I grab sort. So let me just show you what this is. Ready? So if I click on last name, sort equals last name. If I click on student ID, sort equals the value student ID. So a much more elegant approach, a lot less query parameters being used. Okay? Let's go back to the code. We're almost done with the code, by the way. So what's going on here, if there is an update that needs to be made, this is where I issue some new SQL that you're probably not too familiar with. It says update students, set the first name equal to the value you got from the form, the last name equal to the value you got on the form, where the student ID equals the student ID you're editing. Okay? So it's just going to update that one row. I should probably put in here, let me just put this in here. Whoops. Limit 1. So we're only updating one record. So let me just try that one more time. Let me go back here and say edit. I won't change. I'll get rid of the 1 here and say update. Good. So now I'm making sure that when I go to update, I'm limiting the damage that I could do to one record. Okay? Believe me, I've made plenty of changes to databases where I forgot the where clause, and boom, every record got changed. Okay? So I query the database and I get a result, and then I requery the database, and then I render the data. So that's after I make a change, right? I want to redisplay the table data, right? Okay? If something went wrong, I say ruh-roh. Now, if I want to create a record, that's where I just call the create record function with the database connection right here, $db. If I'm saving a record, I go and grab all the data from the post and I insert it into the students table. Okay? And then again, I make sure I got one result back, and then I query the students table again, and I render the results. So after each operation, I have to redisplay the page. Okay? And the last one down here is for delete. This is just like we did before. Delete from students where student ID, blah, 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 limit 1. And then again, I make sure I got one row, and then I requery the database, and I render the results back. Okay? Else, this is a general catch-all, simply display the student data. If there's no query parameters, that's your job, is to display the page and then close the database, right? So if I go here and I click on home, right, there's no parameters. So it's falling through to the else there, okay? Now, let's live dangerously. Okay, let's live a little bit dangerously right here. Whoops, I don't want to save that. And let's go in and take all of these functions here. Let's take each function at a time. So here is this first function, right? Function, and it ends right here. Okay. Actually, let's grab the second one and the third one, and they all end right there. Okay. So I'm going to cut those out. I'm going to cut those out. And I'm going to create a new file right there. And there they are. And I need to put in some PHP tags, don't I? I do. I should have put those in before. Actually, let me do that first. Let's do that, PHP. And then let's stick all the PHP code in there. There it is. I'm not going to format it too nicely now. I'm going to save it now. And I'm going to save it in something called functions.include.php. Functions.inc.php. Now I'm going to go back to my CRUD complete here, and I'm going to put another require statement in. Copy. And I'm going to require, instead of MySQL Connect, I'm going to put functions, right? Functions. .inc.php. And again, notice how short our code is now. It's just a bunch of if statements. Let me go back here and see if our code still works the same. Look at that, it does. Edit. See, it all works exactly the same. So all we did is we moved our functions in, well, we moved it out of this main PHP file, and we just required it right here to include it. So look at the code now. There's not much to it, and this is a complete CRUD operation, whatever you want to call it. All right, so go over this a couple times, download the code, and actually what I want you to do is try and do the requires, okay, by placing the functions in a separate file called functions.inc.php, and make sure everything works. Okay, now for the lab, what your job is going to entail is to change your database. Well, you're not going to change. You may want to change. It's up to you if you're going to put it in a different database. But in the code, right, you're going to change, right, the forms to mimic something of your choice. We've done student ID, first name, last name, email, phone, etc. What I want you to do is maybe do stock ticker, high, low, just different fields with different data. And I want you to populate a database, with maybe 10 rows of data, and show that you can take this code, right? You are going to have to make some modifications to the forms and to the displaying of the data, but it's not too bad, okay? Because you only have to modify this code, and this. And of course, the actual database table in phpMyAdmin. I hope that with this code you get a good grasp of what you can do with PHP, and especially CRUD, and create, read, update, and delete, all from a single PHP script. Everything in there is something you've learned this quarter. So again, Lab 11 is going to be take this code, make a new table with data in it. It's up to you what the columns are going to be. Make sure you have a primary key so you don't get duplicate records and things. And riff on it, man. So that's all I have for this video. And if you have any questions, let me know. The due date, I believe, is in a week. So there's 4 things, too, we want to get done. Lab 11, Lab 12, Lab 13, and Lab 14, okay? Lab 13 is more of a follow the directions type of thing. Lab 12 is I give you some information, including pseudocode. And I want you, it says, after completing this lab, zip up your files and submit to Canvas. Hey, guess what? I forgot to include the file here, which I will do. Okay, so it's a follow the instructions thing. And the last thing that you're going to be doing for the class is something called an image gallery. An image gallery. In fact, I put a video up in Canvas right here. Watch lab number 14 video so you can see how that works. So 4 things to get done, and I think they're staggered over the next 2 weeks. I know you can do them all, and I did make some changes to this CRUD thing because we're a little tight for time, and I'm sure that all of you can do it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me.